Happy Chanukah, everyone. Welcome. Simon Jacobson here. This for me is a very moving moment. Besides that, this is a holiday of lights, the power of light to dispel darkness. It's specifically unique to us here at the Meaningful Life Center because we're right smack in the middle of a crowdfunding campaign. At the end of this year, 2021, Chanukah, we decided, due to the great success of our programs and its enormous growth over the last year and two, to launch this, for us, unprecedented campaign to raise the monies to continue to grow and expand and develop new programs, something we never did before. And as such, this Chanukah, we all are celebrating right in the middle of this campaign, which we call the Gift of Meaning, giftofmeaning.com. And I am deeply touched because we launched it live actually last night, yesterday at noon, and it will conclude tonight at midnight. And the outpouring of sentiments and warm words of people that I have not heard from in many, many years through my journeys doing this program, doing the programs with the Meaningful Life Center, and especially the support, where initially we began with a $300,000 goal, then we moved it up to a $500,000 goal, and now we moved it to a $1 million goal. To see it all, for me, is, I have no words, because the real ultimate test of connection is when people give and take. You know, for many, many years I've been teaching, and for many years I've been producing different type of programming, counseling, coaching people. But when you see people give back, and I've always been enriched by just the very journey itself, an unconditional way. But when you see people give back and share their thoughts and their feelings, I don't have any words to express. And I want to just say to you, to each one of you, that I truly, truly, deeply appreciate your words, your sentiments, and above all, your support, and sharing this with so many others. In many ways, I feel I've almost, I don't say undermined, but definitely downplayed the capacity of being able to bring these teachings and transform lives as it's transformed my life. I don't see these as my teachings. I see them as universal, timeless teachings passed on to us generation after generation, literally from the beginning of time. And it's our challenge, as well as our responsibility and gift, to share with everyone that we can. And that is the most beautiful aspect of life. So I wanted to share a few words in addition to what I've said so far. You know, as I always thinking philosophically and spiritually and psychologically about events going on around us, I've been thinking about my team at the Meaningful Life Center, all of you, which I really see us as one large family, different souls, each one in our diverse place and diverse time, but we join together as flames join together and become one great unison, one beautiful orchestra. So thinking about it all, I must admit, and I want to share with you, that I've always had very difficulty asking for money and raising money. I remember that when I began the Meaningful Life Center, it was one of the hardest things for me. I was happy to teach, happy to give, happy to share things I had learned, the things that I had discovered, and I've learned also by listening and experiencing life, interacting and so on. But it was very difficult for me to ask, especially for money. And I studied it. I asked myself, what is this resistance? Where is it coming from? Is it the fear of being rejected? Is it that I feel like I'm needy? Is it just the mere fact that money has all the neurosis and phobias that associated with it? And I thought about it a lot. And I remember, I want to share this with you. I haven't shared it really very often. I remember sitting, because one of the people in my class said, if you want to build this organization, you need to tell people that you need their help. They don't know on their own. They may think you have it all figured out. Excuse me. So I said, so what do we do? He says, we'll get an office. You'll present to 15 or 10 or 15 people your vision. And then they will, and then he was experienced in the area of fundraising, and I will present to them that in order to do this and this is the budget, this is what we need. I must tell you, I was so fearful, not fearful in a fearing way, I just was very uncomfortable. But we did it. We did it. And I remember what happened was my worst nightmare. Someone sitting in the room says, Rabbi Jacobson, you know, one of the things I loved about you all these years is that you never asked for money. Every synagogue, every rabbi, every organization, always soliciting. And that was what's so beautiful about it. And now you're now stooped to that level as well. So you can imagine, it just reinforced all my hesitations. But, you know, when you're challenged, suddenly a surge came to me. And I responded to her and to everyone. And I said, you're asking a very good question. I want to tell you my response. Because I'm very uncomfortable sitting here. I'm very comfortable teaching. I'm comfortable counseling. I'm comfortable discussing, having conversations, discussing about the matters of meaning of life and so on. But now that you bring it up, I'm very uncomfortable. But you know something? I was thinking about it. The Bible tells the story. Who was the ultimate fundraiser in the Torah? It was Moses. Moshe Rabbeinu. Moses himself. Moses, the great teacher, the great master, the man who saw God face to face, spoke to him like one speaks to a friend, brought us law, brought us the Torah, brought us all those values and ethics and spirituality and all of that. Instead of delegating it, and God could have delegated, someone else should be the fundraiser. Like he delegated building the temple. Bezalel was the architect, not Moshe. Yet when it came to this, he says, you, Moses, you go to the people and tell them we need gold, silver, copper, and all the materials to build a temple. Why did he not delegate that? Moses could have spent his time teaching, learning, counseling. The answer is because you're building a temple for God. V'shachanti b'seichem, I will reside, I will dwell among you. When you're building a temple for God, everyone is involved, and the first, foremost, is the man of God, the leader of all. It's not like raising money is the dirty work. That is the key, to build in a material world a temple for the divine, to create from the physical reality a channel for spirituality. And Moses led the way. So I said this to the whole group of them, then I repeated it a number of times, and I said to them, I'm not Moses, that I can tell you. But if I really believe in my cause, this is the world we live in. We don't live in spiritual worlds. We need money in order to build a temple. And that's exactly the whole purpose of existence, to take the physical world and what is more epitomizes and personifies physicality and materialism? Money, more than anything else. And to turn that itself into a temple. And that's what I mean. So I'm presenting this. You could say it's not a cause you believe in. You don't think this is a temple. That's your right. But I am obligated to share it with you. And I have to tell you something. I thought about this as well and thought to myself, you know, you've been learning with me for many years. I've never asked for something. Exactly correct. But maybe by doing that, I was doing a disservice to you. Because in a way, it's cultivating parasites. I used that word. It was a little harsh. Everyone looked at me. But I said it without in any personalized way. I said it conceptually. I'm teaching you how to take and not to give. And is that what a teacher should do? Anyway, no one ever heard me speak this way. So you can imagine, it was an epiphany moment in my life. A watershed moment. The next day, this woman called me and said to me, I want to apologize. I apologize because I was wrong. You're 100% right. I have issues with money. My father was wealthy. He used money as a weapon to punish us, to reward us. So I have big issues with money. You're 100% right. I want to make a commitment. I believe it was $400 a month, recurring commitment for a number of years. It's still difficult, but that's exactly the point. And here's where I want to connect it with Chanukah. I remember my great teacher, my mentor, the Rebbe, a talk he delivered in 1986. It was connected to the idea of a flame and money. And what was the story? There's a story in the Bible, in the book of Exodus, where after the Jews had built a golden calf, after the receiving of the Torah, God tells Moses, now I want you to take from each soul, I want them to give a half a shekel, a half coin, l'chaper al nafshei sechem, to atone for their souls. Moses was very perplexed. He said to God, how does that work? What was Moses bothered by? We're talking about atoning for souls. You need to do something spiritual to atone for your own soul. Money? A coin? A coin is materialism, epitome of materialism. So that we're told, the sages tell us, that God showed Moses a matbeah shel esh, a coin of fire. And when Moses saw that, he was relieved. His questions were answered. And what happened? What did God show him that Moses did not understand on his own? And the answer is such a beautiful answer. He was showing him that when you take a coin, which epitomizes, yes, personifies, manifests materialism, and you give it for a good cause, it turns into a fire, into a flame. It begins as materialism, but matter turns into spirit. Matter turns into energy. That's what God was showing him. When Moses saw that, he was relieved. He understood. He understood that's exactly the purpose. To atone for your soul, you need to take the material world and turn it to spiritualize matter. And nowhere is that done more than through giving, through charity, especially monetary charity. So understanding this gave me the so-called the spine, the backdrop, the foundation of the idea of launching a campaign called the Gift of Meaning. It's essentially the story of Chanukah. Look at the flame. We've lit 4 candles tonight. What does the flame represent? On one hand, a flame is a very physical entity. You could touch it, you could be burned by it, it warms, it heats, illuminates. But a flame is also something very sublime. It's a place where matter meets energy. I mean, Einstein said E equals mc squared, but long before that we knew matter and energy. A flame requires a wick, and the wick is like the physical grounding, and the flame defies gravity. What is the significance of that? In my first chapter of Toward a Meaning for Life, in the first chapter of my book, Toward a Meaning for Life, I cite the book of Proverbs. The flame, Ner Hashem Nishmas Adam. The flame of God is the soul of a human being. The closest approximation to a soul, we can't see a soul. The closest approximation, it's like a flame. It's always flickering. It's restless. It's transcendent. It's licking the air, seeking a higher reality. The wick is like the body that grounds it, and we need both. So as we look at the flames, and the previous Chabad Rebbe said a beautiful statement. He says we have to listen. He said it in Yiddish. We have to listen to the story, the narrative that the flames tell us. The flames of Chanukah tell us stories. And one story is the first story that I'm sharing with you, is the story of your soul. That your soul connects with your body. The goal is not to separate them. The life is not a life of asceticism or escapism. It's to turn matter into energy. Is that the soul and body join together as one, like a flame and a wick, that it also takes the material world, which on its own is not transcendent. It's affected by the gravitational pull, both physically and conceptually, and it causes it also to elevate. That's the first story of the flame. The story of what tzedakah is. That when a person takes a coin and they give it to a good cause, they've turned matter into energy. And they are atoning for and healing and allowing their souls to grow. Story number 1. Story number 2 in the flames is that a flame is very small. A flame doesn't have to be large, but it's potent. There's an expression that King Solomon writes in the book of Ecclesiastes, at Kehelis. He says, Yisur na'er min ha'choshech, as the advantage, as the superiority of light over dark. Let's think about that for a moment. When there's a dark room and you light a small flame, the flame does not have to go to war with the darkness. The darkness automatically dissipates. Is automatically dispelled in the face of light. Let's compare it to fire and water, for instance. Fire and water, that's not the case. Enough fire can cause large bodies of water to evaporate. Enough water can extinguish the greatest fire. When it comes to dark and light, when there's no light, there's absence of light, darkness can prevail. But bring even a drop of light, and automatically there's no battle. Automatically it dispels the darkness. However, if it's a very dark room or a dark area and dark environment, you need more light. So that's lesson number 2, that it's not about quantity, it's not about the size, it's about quality. The Chanukah teaches us quality. And here again, when a person holds on to their own materialism, to their own possessions, to their own very ego, mine, it's me, 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 they hoard. And especially in the area of money, what happens? They implode in a certain way, because it's like if you don't breathe and things begin to fester within you and they stay within you, you become isolated. That is the epitome of materialism, very self-oriented. When a person shares and gives, what are they doing? They're challenging the very essence of the material world, which is all about me, and they're sharing, they're breathing, they're interacting, there's a give and take. Everyone is benefiting. And that causes the organism, that causes life itself to be a healthy life. What would a flower look like? What would anything look like if it was locked in its own place and did not share, did not cross-pollinate? So the lesson is this, that if you want to avoid the darknesses of life, the depression, the anxiety, the challenges we have, the fears and insecurities, bring a little light of the soul into the picture. And what does that do? It relieves the tension and relieves that locked place that happens when we curl up and within ourselves and don't breathe. So that flame of Chanukah teaches us a little light dispels much darkness, and automatically, but you have to bring the light in. Light is spirit. Darkness is matter. Dark matter, dark space, darkness. And we do that by bringing in the light. Lesson number 3 is that light has the natural tendency of warming and illuminating its environment. It doesn't have to do anything extra. We are all meant to be walking menorahs. People, wherever you go, you bring illumination and you bring warmth to another, which is an extension of the theme of giving as well. The 4th lesson is that, interestingly, everything in this material world, if you give to another, you get diminished. If I give you half of my food, I have half less. If I give you half of my money, I have less money. But when it comes to soul, the more I give, the more I become. Look at a flame. One flame can light another flame without the first flame being diminished. It gives without being diminished. Not only is it not diminished, it actually gets stronger. Look at 2 flames come together. They like melt into each other. They become literally like one, where you can't distinguish between them. So it's again the concept of being able to come to a point of connection, to the point that you discover the unity, and you don't get less of it when you give, because you're dealing with spirit. On Chanukah 2, lesson number 5, every night we light another candle, we light another flame. The idea of that you have to always grow. In all holy good matters, it's never enough yesterday's activities. Do something more today, and tomorrow do something even more. Every day and every night we add and increase. And lesson number 6. Lesson number 6 is, where do we light the menorah, the space? And where and what time do we light it? It says in the Talmud, we light it by the door facing outside. Some light it by the window facing outside. And when? In the evening, as the sun sets. From when the sun sets through the evening. It's interesting, the menorah in the temple was lit in the morning, and it was lit indoors, because the message of Chanukah is that it has the power to pierce darkness. It's not just light for those that are illuminated. It's not just light for the enlightened. It's light for everyone, and especially those that may be in darkness, whether it's emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, or intellectually. They're in a state of darkness, so Chanukah focuses that even in darkness we can find deep and profound light. And finally, I'll say lesson number 7. I probably should do lesson number 8 as well, since it's 8 flames. Lesson number 7, look at the different hues, the colors of a flame. You have a bluish color, you have a yellowish color, a reddish color. The mystics explain these colors reflect different stages in life. The lighter colors reflect light moments, moments of joy, of happiness. The darker colors reflect times of more somber moments, despondent moments. And yet, it's all part of one flame. The closer you get to the wick, So the wick represents materialism, the darker the flame. Farther from the wick, the lighter it gets. But the goal, as we said before, is transforming matter into spirit, turning a coin into fire. And so, therefore, the colors represent the entire spectrum of our lives. And finally, we'll do 1/8 lesson from the candles and the flames. What a flame is all about. A flame is the only thing in existence that defies gravity in physical terms. I mentioned it before, but let's take another point here. It defies gravity. Everything else is drawn downward. The flame goes upward. Yes, helium is the same, but you don't see helium. You have to put it into a balloon, because it represents the transcendent nature of the soul that we discussed earlier. That it's always looking, it's always going upward. That a person has to always be looking upward. There's a famous story with the Tzemach Tzedek, one of the great Rebbes. When he was a child, he was playing with other children on a ladder. And all the children were afraid to climb to the top of the ladder. Except the Tzemach Tzedek, this young boy who would become a great, great leader himself. He climbed to the top. His grandfather, the famous Alter Rebbe, Rab Shneur Zalman V'Liadi, the author of the Tanya and of the Shulchan Aruch, was watching all of this transpire, and he calls over his grandson and he says to him, "Tell me, why were you the only one that was not afraid to climb to the top? And your friends were." And he said, "Zayda, Grandpa, very simple. Because when the other children were climbing, they kept looking down. They saw how high they were, they got frightened, and they scurried back down. When I was climbing, I kept looking up. I saw how low I was, so it motivated me to climb higher." This is difference between soul vision and body vision. When you look with the body, when you look with the lens of the material lens of life, then you're afraid to go too high. If you look at people who have accomplished less than you, you look down, what happens? You say, "Hey, I've accomplished plenty and up. I don't need to do more." But when you look up, you look with the spiritual lens of how much more there is. Raise your eyes to heaven and see who put it all in place. And you look at people who have accomplished more, you're looking up. What does it do? It motivates you to say, "Hey, as much as I've accomplished, I have to accomplish more." Now that's called healthy angst, healthy restlessness. So all these lessons come together to teach us, in sum, what I discussed earlier, turning matter into spirit, turning a coin into a flame. So let us all bring this back together to the very mission of the Meaningful Life Center. That is our mission. That is what we do. We take the teachings that go back generations and generations, and try to translate and apply them to life, to help you, to help me, to help each one of us, to transform the matter of our lives into something of higher consciousness, deeper meaning. The gift of meaning, the single most important thing in life, not just to exist, not just to survive, not just to make it and damage control, but to find deeper meaning in everything you do. And what's fascinating is, it doesn't avoid the material world, it transforms it. You engage with the material world. You take the coin, specifically a coin, something very material, and you turn that into spirit, into fire. The flames of Chanukah, taking the wick, taking physical matter and discovering the spiritual sparks within it, transforming matter into energy. That is our mission. So how fitting is it that comes Chanukah, end of the year, and we began this on Giving Tuesday, yesterday. And what is our goal? The gift of meaning. To be able to continue creating such programs that turn matter into spirit, that turn a coin into a flame. And that means that each one of us, as we give, and however we're able to give, everybody has their capacity. You're actually, when you give to a cause that is valuable and precious and eternal, you're taking matter and turning it into energy. That's the essence of it. You're taking a coin and turning it into a flame. Today, it's not actually physical coins. We do this online, do it with credit cards, you do it with PayPal, you do it whatever means, but the idea is the same. You're still taking physical currency or physical money that represents physicality and turning it into something spiritual. So that itself, what you're doing is fulfilling the mission of your life. That's how beautiful this is. And that's why I encourage you. And I in every possible way, please join us, partner with us. Because all this money is going to go toward one thing and one thing only: creating more such programs, helping people, young and old, men, women, and children, especially programs that we're developing now to help teens, counseling, training the next generation of leaders, programs that you already see and just expand their reach and scope, and new projects that we intend to build with your support and help. So I really see you as a partner in this mission, in the gift of meaning mission, of taking matter and turning it into spirit, taking your corner of the world and making it a home for the divine. Giftofmeaning.com is the website where we have launched and where the campaign continues to grow. And I want to thank each of you that have already contributed. There's no question you can also contribute again. It's only going to help toward that cause. And those that haven't yet or haven't heard about it, please go to giftofmeaning.com and give graciously, generously, to the best of your ability. We are taught that as we give, that's how we are given. Meaning, when you open your heart to help another, God opens his heart to help you. That's how it works. Not as tit for tat, it's just the nature of things. When you're in expansive mode, you draw expansion into your own life. And that, again, is part of the purpose of it all. So, though I have to be honest, it's always difficult still. I'm fundamentally more of a teacher and a writer, and that's my easy place to be, my comfort zone. But I've come to learn, and I understand that the purpose is specifically the areas where you have resistance. Specifically, taking matter and turning it into energy is a lot more difficult than turning energy into energy. To teach, to speak, to write, to counsel, to answer questions, that's the world of energy. That's the world of spirit. But to take the material world, which includes all the challenges that we have, all the material aspects of our lives, all the things where matter conceals energy, and turn that into energy, that's going to be difficult. And that's why there is resistance. So I feel proud that I'm able, and I was able to listen to the advice of good friends of ours, supporters, our own team at Meaningful Life Center, and overcome my own resistance and join this campaign and do whatever I could, as well as seeing a beautiful team that I have, doing everything they can in achieving our goals. And frankly, it's not the numbers per se. Numbers just reflect commitment and they reflect how many people are involved. It's the quality. It's the quality. You know, there's that, it always brings a smile to my face, the scene in the Frisco Kid with a train robber. He's ripped everybody off, took their money, their cash, their jewelry, all their possessions. And before he jumps off the train with all the booty, all the loot, he says to them, remember the lesson in life. It's always better to give than to take. And he was doing the taking. I'm not suggesting that. It's just interesting. But the fact of the matter is, he was absolutely right. The people who know how to give open up whole new vistas in life. And just as it is in the story I told at the outset, that some of us, our resistance of giving up something from our own comfort zone, it could be our space, it could be our valuables, it could be our money, that itself is what we need to overcome. Obviously, we all have to protect our interests and protect our so-called territory. But being able to give is about being able to breathe. And life is breathing. It's all about that cross-pollination, where each one of us has something to give and each one of us has something to receive. Beautiful statement in the Mishnah that says, who is the wise person who learns something from every other person? Someone who learns from all people. That indicates, and that tells us two things. Everybody has something to learn, and everyone has something to teach. And that is why I find it so gratifying to hear from you, to be able to speak with you and listen, because it's really about give and take. We learn from each other. Everything that I know about life is coming from people that I've met. It's not just you're on a mountain, on a pedestal, in an ivory tower, pontificating and conceiving ideas. It's the empathy, it's the interaction. That famous statement that I always saw, I saw it on the refrigerator of my late uncle, where he wrote, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. It's about heart to heart. soul to soul. Yes, knowledge is important, but knowledge is a tool. And that has been so much part of the gratification of working in the work that I do, which I also want to acknowledge. I wouldn't be possible without my beautiful team. Wouldn't be possible without your feedback and thoughts and suggestions and even critique. Yes, critique. And wouldn't be possible without your support. It all comes together when you're building something that's more than the sum of the parts. As you all know, I always say, each of us is like an indispensable musical note. Birth is God saying, you matter. You matter, you are indispensable. What you have to accomplish in this world, you and only you can accomplish. We are completely committed to that. That means to you. Your mission is our mission. And the more we're able to help you discover your mission and discover the courage to implement it and not become another conformist where you're just following the herd, but really discover the song inside you and being able to sing it, there's nothing more powerful and nothing more gratifying to us. And we feel the same, that we can benefit and grow through you. So I really ask you to please share, comment, feedback. I say it in every one of my classes. Please, it's not just I'm interested in hearing what you have to say. I really believe we can grow and learn from it. And hopefully you learn as well from us, from myself, and from my great team. So I want to wish everyone on this night, the fourth night of Chanukah, right in the middle of Chanukah. It's 8 nights. This is the fourth. So we're like halfway there, that you should be illuminated. And your soul, which is like a flame, the flame of God, should not just be existent like a pilot flame, but should be fanned. And it should grow and illuminate and warm everything around you. And you in turn should also be warmed and illuminated by those around you. And through the Ner Mitzvah v'Torah, the mitzvahs that we do, which is compared to a candle, and the Torah we study, and the actions that we do, as I've pointed out, especially recently, the spiritual spa that we immerse ourselves in. Spa is an acronym for study, prayer, action, cognitive, emotional, and behavioral conditioning. That creates this flame that illuminates, warms, and brings transcendence to each one of us. So may you be blessed to live up to your flame to the fullest, all in good health, all with finding the right soulmate, if that is what you're in need of, or if you have your soulmate that marriage, to really appreciate it and grow and improve it to the best of the greatest of its potential. Those need the blessing in children, having healthy children, having nachas and joy and gratification from our children and grandchildren, and all in a way of abundance, materially and spiritually. Because as we're also told, that charity is not giving something up, it's like a flame, as I said before. It's a coin, a flaming coin, a coin of fire. So it's just like a flame does not get weaker and does not get diminished by when it shares with another. The same is with a coin when it becomes a coin of fire. Not when it just remains in its own inertia and its own physical, material, locked, paralyzed place. So that everything you give comes back to you much more than you're giving. Asher b'shvil shetis asher, we're told. That when you give, you're given. And you grow and are blessed in every possible way. So please, we have a few more hours of this campaign. The official end of the campaign is this midnight. So just a few more hours, a little less than 3 hours. Please go to giftofmeaning.com. Giftofmeaning.com. Because meaning is a gift. And please be generous with your funds, help us in every possible way, and please share it also with others. Giftofmeaning.com. And with that, I wish everyone a very happy Chanukah, an illuminating one, illuminating not just for these 8 days, but also continuing all year round. And may we merit the day, immediately, even now, that all our efforts, as they accumulate, like many different flames accumulate, should bring the great fire and the great flame, obviously healthy and good, in a good fashion, that would illuminate the entire world. In the words of the prophet, a world filled with divine knowledge as the waters cover the sea. So we have the metaphor of water, the metaphor of fire, as the waters cover the sea, all consuming. That we have a world of peace and no famine and no war, and no divisiveness, but there's harmony within diversity. The world that we call the personal and global redemption, the Geula Hamitis V'Hashlema, is the Hebrew term for it, in a way where then a world filled with light and only growing in light from day to day, from year to year, into eternity. Again, happy Chanukah. Thank you so much. giftofmeaning.com. Be well and be blessed.